Chiefs have a big matchup coming. They're not 100%, and unfortunately, it's getting worse. We're going to go over all the details today with Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest as we look at the Chiefs getting ready for Thursday Night Football and get that all done over on Amazon. I know you guys want to hear about it. Here we go. This is Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
I know. We're going to wait a second till we get to the topic. This is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. You know him very well. He covers the team. Beat reporter, knows it all. He'll deal with my fire in a second because we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to preview the game. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics, Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football. Thanks for making us your first listen. This is the podcast network that is Locked On. It is your team every day for free on every platform. Thank you for being here. Check out the draft show for another show to listen to.
You okay,
All
Ryan?
right, I've had enough, Matt. Talk me off the ledge. I get one game out of the top draft pick, and now he's kaput for 4 weeks. Tell me why I shouldn't be crying.
Well, you should be crying because that's disappointing. I mean, you're going to at least, look at the bright side. Maybe it's only 4 weeks. That's probably the optimistic side. Then, hey, McDuffie, when he gets back, hopefully he'll be 100%. But no, I mean, it's disappointing. You would really like to see the guy more out there more. Had a good game against Arizona. They didn't challenge him at all. So hard to really say, hey, did a great job. I mean, obviously, wasn't anything that the Cardinals saw that they could attack. So that's a good thing. But no, I mean, it's development time that's lost. I mean, it's crucial. So, I mean, the one thing is that Jalen Watson now and Joshua Williams will probably get some more opportunities and a chance to play a little bit earlier than expected. You'd like to make sure you get McDuffie back late in the season and that he's healthy and that he can, be a boost to you then. But no, there's no doubt. I mean, it's a disappointment that you're going to be missing a guy that you were really counting on to start the season.
Let me translate all that for you, folks. Kyler Murray was scared of Trent McDuffie. That's all there was to it. There is no other explanation. It's just a shame. I'm really fired up because this pick for me was the culmination of a lot of work that I was really excited about. In 4 weeks, okay, it is, as we understand, a hamstring tear is the term that I saw. That makes me a little bit nervous. I know we don't have specifics, but takeaways from this, that's not the only injury. Luckily, it's the only major one right now. Bucker's still, what Andy called him, day-to-day here. There is another kicker in camp now, yes?
Yes, there is. Butker still has some swelling in that left ankle. And if he still has some swelling, they will probably want to keep him from off the field on Thursday. It's not a pain issue. It's nothing like that as a threshold standpoint. It's just they don't want to put him in that situation where he's going to be favoring it. Might cause some other problems, either whether mechanics or he's, favoring it, trying to stay away from it. They just feel better off not doing that. And if they can avoid having to put too much on Justin Reed, I mean, hey, they're fine with using him in an emergency situation, but they don't want to go into a game where they're forcing Justin Reed to be their kickoff guy and not have anybody to handle field goals, especially. I mean, I think this is going to be a close game. You don't want to go into this game and not have somebody that can make a game-winning kick for you with 3 seconds left. So, Matt Amendola, he's been around the league a little bit, here and there. So he won the kick out palooza on Monday over some familiar names, the usual suspects, the Elliott Fries of the world and everything coming in. So that's a pretty good sign. And you got to see him in the locker room hanging out with Tommy Townsend. Those two look like they were having a pretty good time, getting ready. So, okay. If Butker does not go, Matt Amendola will be your guy Thursday night.
Okay. Little quick camaraderie. I like that. You got to have that, especially with those three guys. They're going to be key. And I agree with you. I do think it is going to be a fairly tight game that you need to have them there. Now, that said, I think that alleviates some of the question about what Justin can do. Kudos to him for what he did last week. We can't expect that, especially in a close game. But say this kicker, and I don't know, Matt Amendola, I haven't looked up his stats. Believe me, I'm fixed to this other issue that we're dealing with. But if he comes out, misses a kick, misses a PAT, like, is this, how close is it, is what I'm asking you, to Justin Reed being still a viable option where they may choose to do that, not out of necessity because the new guy might not be on rhythm yet?
I think it would be very unlikely that unless it's an injury type situation or an emergency that they would go back to Reed. I mean, even for kickoff duties, I mean, I think they would still, if they have another kicker that's healthy on the roster that day, I mean, I think that's the guy. And they certainly don't want to go into a game, like I said, where that's the plan. I mean, they want to have a kicker going into every single game. And if Justin Reed's your backup, I mean, that's one of the better backups to have in the league. But no, there's no intention of going into a game that way. It'll be interesting to me, how long Amendola sticks around. I mean, is this going to be a longer term thing? You would think that with 10 days after this, that Butker's going to be good to go, and maybe it's not a longer term concern. But let's see what happens. But I think for this game, absolutely. I mean, it's a close divisional game that you think this is going to be. You want to make sure you got a veteran out there and an actual kicker and not having to put that much on Reed.
Yeah, I like that. Let's let Justin play defense. Thanks. I think we'll need to make up for the McDuffie thing there. And I want to talk about the injury and the mode of injury here coming up in the next segment. But there were a couple other maneuvers that the Chiefs pulled here today while you were on radio. And I'm a little curious about them. Elijah Lee coming back up to the 53. This is not last week. Now assigning a permanent spot on the 53, correct?
Permanent spot on the 53, and him and Jack Cochran. So 2 linebackers coming up to the 53-man roster, and that fills out the 53. They had a vacancy that they had never filled from last week when they put Blake Bell on IR to start the season. So this completes out and rounds out the 53.
Okay. So should I read anything into it other than positive that they feel that their corner group is okay, even with the McDuffie injury, in Williams and Watson being able to take up that slack?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit curious to me with making both these moves. Elijah Lee getting one of the spots on the 53 seemed like a pretty foregone conclusion. Now, there's some contract, situations in here too that also makes you wonder because one, had Elijah Lee gone on the 53-man roster last week, his entire 2022 salary would have become guaranteed. As a veteran, if you're on the week 1 roster on the active 53-man roster, then your contract is guaranteed. That doesn't apply if you're a practice squad elevation just for week 1. So that's a little, difference there. Elijah Lee is now on the active roster, but it doesn't have a guaranteed contract. Cochran coming up and getting on the 53 is interesting because whenever you do that, you do now have a 3-week commitment that's guys got to be on the active roster. So this is not a 1 week come up and come down. I mean, unless Jack Cochran gets hurt, he's on the 53-man roster for 3 weeks. You've guaranteed that. So that's a little bit peculiar to me that at least this is not a short-term deal. And we don't know if there's any indication. I mean, none of the other linebackers are on the injury report. Although Willie Gay was added to the injury report on Wednesday with a knee, but he was a full go. He was on the practice field to begin practice, which wasn't in helmets or pads or anything. So there's no indication that there's been a setback or an issue there. The only other indication would be the most likely scenario is that another team was interested in Jack Cochran. I mean, this was a guy that I think had a really good mini camp. I could see why maybe there's some other teams interested. If a team's trying to take him off your practice squad, and I know this was a guy that the Chiefs are very high on, they really liked. He was in the battle for a roster spot all the way to the very end. So I could see why maybe they were trying to keep him from that standpoint. And he's going to play special teams.
There you go. Protect your own. We're going to get into the Chargers. They are looming. They're coming up quick. We're going to take a look at it together here in just a minute. But I got to tell you guys about probably one of the easiest things to help you help yourself from our newest friends over at LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need to find the right people to help your team and your small business fire on all the cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier for you to find the people that you want to talk to faster and for free. I'm always looking for good content creators, graphic artists, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it simple to just create a job in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. You add your job, and the purple hashtag hiring frame comes in on your LinkedIn profile, and it spreads the word to your network as well as others that you're trying to find the right people to hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. And did you know that every week 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Okay, so the Los Angeles Chargers. No, wait, I'm not done, folks. It's every day that the guest has to talk me down, but I'm still fired up about this. We spent the whole segment talking about 2 injuries that could have been avoided if you rolled out turf that worked. And NFL, I hope you're listening. I hope the entire world is listening about this. This, to me, infuriates me more than anything else as somebody who watches guys develop. Physicality, the threshold of where you are an elite athlete cannot be subject to fundamental problems on the surface you play on. Is there any repercussions for the league or the Arizona Cardinals for the what's a nice way to put it, terrible state of what we saw in Arizona?
There's not. I mean, you look around the league, and there's certainly teams that and facilities that have better surfaces than others. And unfortunately, the Chiefs have visited 2 places already this season that have maybe 2 of the worst surfaces around. And maybe Arizona's not usually that bad, although once again, I mean, these indoor facilities with natural grass, it always gets kind of tricky. What would you rather have? I mean, in the indoor facilities, do you want artificial turf? I mean, it might actually be better in some cases, but you're right. I mean, that's one thing that I will agree with you in your frustration, which is that there is no real mechanism in the NFL to hold teams accountable for having quality surfaces, for putting resources and money into making sure that they have the best possible surfaces for their teams. And, but honestly, I mean, we've seen it even in Kansas City. I mean, you got to be careful about casting stones here. I like to refer, at least the Chiefs have fixed what I used to call Reggie Wayne corner, because there was the corner of the field that during the winter months, get any moisture on that, it would freeze. And that corner of the end zone would just become an absolute ice rink. The Chiefs, at least on their own, I mean, it wasn't like the league came and said, hey, you got to fix this. I mean, the Chiefs went in and put the underground piping in to heat that field, so it would help with a lot of their problems that they were having with their surface. So that's great. But even the Chiefs have had some problems where they've had to resod, and it results in loose turf. And that's what happened here. I mean, and Andy Reid said it on Tuesday. Hey, he was glad that Arizona resodded the field because that was good, but it was still loose. And they had a couple of guys slip on that loose turf, and that was an absolute factor in those injuries. And that's frustrating. And I mean, yeah, you're lucky that these weren't longer term injuries, but still, I mean, you don't want to lose a kicker for a week, and you don't want to lose Trent McDuffie for a month.
No, could have cost Trent McDuffie Rookie of the Year right there. Thank you, Mr. Bidwell. Yes, I'm not. Okay, I'm going to get off my horse, but this is significant. I think we're going to have to revisit this because it's just the silliest thing I've ever seen. It's a desert. Why do you have natural turf? It's ridiculous. It's
a challenge.
It is a challenge. What we do know is it's going to be better field conditions on Thursday when they get to play the Chargers. My box is done. I'm off of it. So let's quickly look at what has to be, after we saw the performances of the quarterbacks in week 1, the primetime matchup, not only of Thursday, but of the week, with Herbert versus Mahomes. 2 guys who didn't throw interceptions, who were actually efficient. Not only is this a marquee, but this, I think, feels like to me, outside of the injuries now, with Keenan Allen going down for the Chargers, and now with McDuffie out, I feel like those X each other out. That's a cancellation in my book. But this is still probably the primetime matchup right now for what will set the race for the AFC West. Am I wrong?
I don't think you are, because I mean, I do think that these are the 2 best teams, and I'm from what we saw in week 1, and hey, overreaction central here. I mean, Chiefs are still better, but I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, I've got some questions about the Chargers. Are they going to be better defensively? Yeah, they are, but offensively, what are they? Especially once again, if they play any type of part of this season without Keenan Allen, which they may not have on Thursday. That is a huge loss, because just as much as the Chiefs offense goes through Travis Kelce, that's what the Chargers offense goes through Keenan Allen. And without him, they become very 2-dimensional. And even then, I mean, what was Mike Williams? Mike Williams disappeared on Sunday. He's not always that, he's not Keenan Allen. He's not the guy that you can count on every single week to be that guy. And Austin Eckler's a very nice piece, another Chiefs killer, just like Keenan Allen has been. But that's a big, big blow. And Herbert's great, but they need to get him a little bit more of a supporting cast. But to me, the real battle in this game, the matchup to watch, it's going to be the Chargers defense against this Kansas City offense. That's going to be that's what makes this a marquee battle to me.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the one-on-ones here coming up in the next segment. But just to go back just a little bit, Mike Williams has had the Chiefs number in a number of ways against long, tall, and actually pretty quick cornerbacks. What does this do to know that you're going to have at least another rookie out there, possibly two that have to play significant snaps against a guy who just kind of has it in Arrowhead? Is that a concern more so than most weeks?
But that's one of the reasons why I think for the Chiefs defense, you have to be optimistic about a matchup like this. And I was asked earlier today, hey, is this kind of a blessing that maybe you can now go with a bigger cornerback lineup without McDuffie? Well, no, because I think Trent McDuffie's that good that you want him in there all the time. But Jalen Watson's is a bigger corner. Joshua Williams are bigger corners. The Chiefs invested in some of these bigger guys because the people who give them trouble around the league are bigger receivers, the Mike Williams, the Jamar Chases, the T. Higgins, you name it. I mean, the Chiefs want to be able to match up with, because these are the teams that have victimized them, that are going to be the problems late in the season in January and February. So that's why you go longer. And I'm intrigued to see. I mean, it will be a very interesting matchup to me to see how the Chiefs do counter a guy like Mike Williams and whether he eats him up again, because they are going to have the opportunity to put some bigger guys against him now.
I'm looking forward to that. We're going to talk what has to happen and our predictions for this game, folks, coming up here. But first, I got to tell you about buddies. Get it all done for you over at BetOnline. When you need to get into the action, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check all your betting information for all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 source for all the odds, lines, games, and everything you need to get your money on the line in a smart way that gets you ready for whatever season you're looking for, whether it's this football season, could be baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA, even the golf and the combat sports are there at BetOnline. It continues to be the top resource for all of your sports wagering information, your live in-game betting, podcasts, scores, everything that you need to get covered. Head over there to BetOnline. It's easy to get to their website from any device, including your phone. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. Where it starts and ends for me, you kind of teed me up in the last segment, and I thank you for that. The skill positions aside, this comes down to three guys to me. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa versus Andrew Wiley. That is going to be the story of this offensive output and how much Patrick has to deal with confusion and problems that he has to change things for. Is there any bigger matchup for the Chiefs offense than those three?
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean, I would probably even fold in Orlando Brown in that too, because even though the Chiefs didn't give up any sacks against Arizona, they gave up some pressures. They gave up some hits. And that's the one thing that you would like to cut down on with Mahomes, to see him take some of those shots. I mean, obviously one of them resulted in the wrist injury, but he took a few other shots that I would have been concerned about too. And you just don't want your franchise guy making that much money. It's that important, taking that many blows. And that's, the strength of the AFC West defensively around the division is that they're going to be seeing guys like that 6 times a year. And then there are going to be a few other teams around the league as well. So yeah, their edge protection has got to be better, and certainly than it was against Arizona. So you have to be watching that matchup. But to me, that folds into what is the big key about this matchup, is that it's time to now see if the changes and adjustments that the Chiefs are making offensively to deal with these zone coverages and the too high shells that they see so much, if it's going to work. Because I think that some of that is absolutely going to be focused on Patrick Mahomes getting rid of the ball faster and attacking and defenses at shallower levels. They're going to have to do that. And I don't think there's any better time to test it than find out whether this team can do it than against the Chargers, because you don't want Mahomes standing in the pocket very long, because he is going to get pressured. The Chargers are going to be able to do it with 4. He's going to have to get rid of the football. He's going to have to spread it around. This is what the Chiefs offense has been built around, and they've been trying to figure out how to counter. The Chargers are going to throw it at them. And if they can't handle it against the Chargers, then you're going to wonder who can they handle it against.
Yeah. I have to completely agree with you, and I will go back to the play. The deeper crosser was the big play of the game, right? But more importantly was the way that they used Travis to attack in between the hashes. And I think both at the linebacker level and knowing where Derwin James is, that's going to be the key to moving the ball quickly and getting it out, like you said. On the offensive side, I'm still very confident about that. As long as you can keep that time to throw down, I think you can be okay and you can survive Bosa and Mack. On the other side, it is a very similar picture. I thought this team did a great job on rotating defense through, knowing that they had to play the Chargers. I hope that they continue that process of keeping the rotation active and not settling into any one lineup, because I thought we saw the NASCAR that I felt was very effective, and I think it has to be against Burrow. I thought you saw guys play inside as well as they did outside, in Dana, in Dunlap, and even Frank Clark going inside. I thought that was great. And they did it without flushing Murray, who can hurt you, in my opinion, more than Herbert can. Herbert's a good athlete, and he can use his legs, but he wants to be in that pocket or close to it. So I feel like there's a bigger opportunity to get to the quarterback on the front this week. Do you see the same thing, or do you think that there's a gap there somewhere?
No, I do see that, and you're right. I was really encouraged by what the Chiefs did as far as the rotation. I mean, some of that was obviously dictated by the score, and they were able to get their backups into the fourth quarter and give some guys a rest. But at the same time, you also saw the Chiefs willing to go 4 deep at their edge position and bring in, Dana and Karlaftis and it go beyond just Frank Clark and leaving him out there for 80% of the snaps. So they've got some more guys that they can trust. I'll be interested. I mean, I was talking to a colleague today, who told me that, hey, this would be the week that if the Chiefs are going to bring up Danny Shelton, maybe this is the week that you get him in there to have a big piece in the middle that can eat up some stuff and help out those guys on the outside. But I'll tell you what, I mean, if Chris Jones plays like he did against Arizona for all 17 games, Chris Jones is going to be an all-pro. I mean, he had a very effective game, and the numbers will come, but the hurries were right there. But Chris Jones was consistently around the football. And if Chris Jones plays like that, this Chiefs defense is going to be okay.
Yeah, I agree. That's got to be the key to it. Now, Willie with the knee, I think, is a little bit troublesome. I thought Nick Bolton certainly came on strong as the game went on. He did end up leading the team in combined tackles. It was L'Jarius Sneed for the vast majority of that game. It was getting a little bit more attention. And that comes back, I think, to those matchups. Herbert looked pretty sharp. I mean, he hit a tight end falling down backwards on the sideline, toe tap thing, like that's repeatable. But again, in the middle, the linebackers, I think Brian Cook has to play more. I think he has to step up a little bit more. There were too many missed tackles this week. But the middle of the Chiefs defense beyond the front, how do you feel about how that matches up with what the targets that the Chargers are going to be working with?
Yeah, that's intriguing to me because, once again, like I mentioned earlier, I was really surprised that the Cardinals did not attack Trent McDuffie. I mean, that would have been the thing to me, is that you circle the young guys. And the Chiefs have got him out there in spades. I mean, whether it's Leo Chanel at the linebacker spot, McDuffie, Watson, now with McDuffie out, you'll probably see a little bit more of Josh Williams, Brian Cook. I mean, those are the numbers that if I'm opposing teams, I'm circling and saying, throw the ball here at these guys, make them prove that they can stop you. And the Cardinals didn't do that. So the Chargers, I'm pretty sure, will. I'd be very surprised if they're not going to do that. I mean, Staley and Herbert, too smart to let that opportunity, I think, bypass you by. So find out what those guys got, especially, I mean, that to me, I mean, Jalen Watson's your third guy out there. That's the guy to circle in those situations. I'm surprised anybody's continuing to test L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, it's the one thing that the guy does is that even if he gives up the catch, you're not going to get any yak. I mean, he's going to get you down by those tackles numbers tell you. And he's really good against the run too. So, but to me, yeah, I mean, there's some things that we still need to see how the teams are going to challenge this Chiefs defense. And I don't think that Arizona gave them the best challenge. Chargers will, because they know this team and they know their weaknesses.
Folks, we have a crossover show with the host of the Locked On Chargers. We have Chris and I previewing our show. You'll have my prediction there. But we got to get one from Matt because he's got the inside pulse of all this. And even, the feel for locker room. Are they tight? Are they comfortable? What's going on, Matt? What do you see happens in this Thursday night game?
No, I mean, this still feels like a pretty good, pretty loose locker room at this point. I mean, been pretty confident. So it was maybe a little bit more intense than I would normally see, especially at this point in the week. Even it didn't. This is basically a Friday, and I will say it did not feel like a Friday in the locker room to me at all. Maybe a little bit more serious just because there's so little time to get ready this week, and Fridays are usually a little bit more relaxed. And even as light as the workout was on Tuesday, there were no helmets, no pads. I mean, this week is as much about preparation as it is recovery. I mean, they're not, the Chiefs aren't pushing, the Reed's not pushing his team hard. He wants to make sure that they are healthy as they can be and 100% fresh for this game Thursday. Both teams are like that. They're taking the same approach. I still think that the Chiefs are the better team. I like the fact that, they're at home on a Thursday night. That's a huge advantage. Statistics show that playoff teams versus playoff teams are pretty good games on a Thursday night. I still think that the Chiefs are better. That's why I think they win this game, but the Chargers like to give them a fight. So I'm going to go 27-24 Chiefs.
Ooh, I like that. Folks, you heard it here first. You can hear it all at ChiefsDigest.com. That's where Matt's work is. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate all of your time, Matt. Very helpful.
Good luck, everybody. Have fun out there.
And I'm almost off the ledge. It's going to be fun. Folks, tomorrow, double episode preview in 2 ways before that Thursday night game. Be on the outlook. We'll talk to you then.